Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the People Bros. I'm Jarrett,
I'm Brooke.
and we are a married couple, and we love to talk about reality TV.
Yep.
We watch so much reality TV. We had a bunch of podcast equipment laying around. We decided to talk about it. How you doing this week, Brooke?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. This episode's coming out a little bit later.
Yeah.
But we had so much out there. I think we wanted to make sure we watched it all.
Well, we really needed to catch up on Love is Blind, and we are now fully caught up, so we are going to give you a full rundown of all the episodes so far.
Yes. Okay. Are we going to do a rundown of every single one, or maybe just broad strokes of the
well,
season?
Well, yeah, broad. That's what I mean. The whole
and then,
season.
Zero in on what's recently happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do that, and I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. We got lots of thoughts.
We've got lots of thoughts on it. And then also we watched Traitors. We're caught up on Traitors. So,
which next week is the finale, right?
That's what they're making it sound like.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And then we are going to, of course, talk about Bachelor.
Oh, and we're getting a Traitors reunion, too. Oh, we didn't get one last season.
Beautiful. Every reality TV show, regardless, should be required to have a reunion.
100%.
I mean, I want a reality TV show for shows like Amazing. I mean, a reunion for shows like Amazing Race. I want a reunion show for shows like House Hunters, where people go on and like, well, this is what it was like. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. And then finally, but we are going to talk about The Bachelor. But normally we talk about The Bachelor first. But since this one is coming out on Sunday, we're probably just that's going to be at the end. So if you have chapters, go and you just want to hear about that before the episode drop. I mean, the new episode of Bachelor comes out. Go ahead and skip to that part of the video.
Yeah.
We have, Brooke, what do you think of our camera setup? We are going to hopefully get a video out this time around as well.
Yeah, it's great. It looks great.
Yeah. Last time.
Can you see the poster in yours?
No, we just getting bits and pieces of the poster. Here, we'll take a picture of the poster.
Oh, yeah, we'll post a picture on socials.
Right here is what the poster looks like. Working on a 2-camera setup, maybe with a 3-camera setup.
Yeah.
We'll cut to wides of us.
Oh, wow.
Which actually isn't a bad idea.
Oh, my gosh.
Next time I actually might do that.
Okay.
But yeah, let's get into it and not waste any more time. Or not waste time, but let's just get to the good stuff.
Yeah, so Love is Blind.
Yes.
Where should we start?
Love is Blind, very quickly for those who don't know, is a show where couples date each other in a blind manner, if that makes any sense.
They date each other where they can't see each other and they can only talk to each other to begin with. And then they get engaged if they feel so inclined.
Right. And not just that they can't see each other, they don't even know what each other look like.
Yeah. They sometimes will question, and that's a whole thing that we'll talk about.
Right.
And
it's also like a speed dating. It's not like you and I are matched.
Well, I think it's speed dating at the beginning, but then it seems like they let them talk for hours.
Yeah, just depending on who they narrow it down.
Yeah, what did they say? They narrow it down to like a top 15.
No, I think there's only 15 of each. So there's 15 guys or 15 girls.
Oh.
Then you date all of them. Then I think there's rounds. I don't know how.
Oh, well, remember when they were in the Dominican and they all met for the first time?
Yes, yeah.
And Jimmy was like, "Oh, but y'all didn't have me in any of your top."
Yeah, I think he said top 5.
Oh, okay, top 5.
So that's the premise of the first part of the show.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Then they get engaged if they feel like they've met the love of their life, and they go on a little quick honeymoon, or well, not honeymoon because they're not married.
Engagement trip.
A little trip to wherever, and then they come back to where they live, which this season is in South Carolina.
I thought it was in North Carolina.
Oh, I can't keep the Carolinas.
It's in the Carolinas.
Straight. It's in the Carolinas. And then they come back and they live together.
Right.
And kind of practice, so to speak, or see what life is really like.
Right.
And then at the very end, which is what's going to air this week, is they have a wedding. And when they go to the altar, it's like the thing to say, I do or I don't.
Right.
Right? So in years past, we've had, I don't know, typically I guess there's like 5 couples that they follow through the process.
It just varies.
And then there's some couples that get engaged, but they decide not to share their story for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So this is in coming out of the pods. That's what they call it when they're talking blindly.
Right.
Coming out of the pods, there's 5 couples.
Yes.
Right? So let's do a rundown of the couples.
Before we get to the rundown of the couples, let's talk about some honorable mentions that didn't make it out the pods.
Okay.
And again, we covered Love is Blind when it was in Houston. That's the last season before this one.
Yeah.
And we got the full take, but this is our first time getting to really talk about it.
Yeah.
So again, this is old news, but just 30 seconds. Matthew, crazy.
Oh, gosh.
I think he was very cold and calculating and wanted to be on TV.
Yeah, and I think he is maybe a little socially not there.
That's
because
interesting.
Well, because he came in with all these questions that he had planned to ask people.
Right.
And then when they asked him back, he was like, "Oh, I wasn't prepared to answer them. Oh, I didn't think I would get asked these questions too." Like,
yeah,
that's weird.
Point.
Why do you think you're not going to get asked them too?
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. He was cold and calculating is maybe the best word.
Maybe.
And that made him unable to have natural, fluid conversations. Like, he was planning questions. He sounded like the things he said were almost a script.
Yeah, that's true.
But
do you think that was cold and calculated, or he just didn't know what he was doing? Doesn't know what he's doing?
No, I think it's so weird because we've kind of switched positions on how we generally see people. I think you're giving him a lot of benefit of the doubt. That's just not the case.
Yeah.
He said the same exact thing
to
2 women.
So yeah, that's what happened.
He had dates, questions planned.
Yeah.
He was very uber focused on how America was perceiving him.
Yeah, that was
storyline he thought he was getting. Those are all the hallmarks to me of someone who's thinking very much about what to say, how to say it, and how people are interpreting what he's saying.
Yeah, that's true.
So he thinks about all of those, but that's not how social interactions are.
Yeah, you're right.
You're yourself.
And he was really like not wanting to get engaged. He kept trying. Well, what he ended up saying to both the girls was, "Let's just leave. Like, let's just leave the show together. I don't want to get engaged."
Right.
And a couple girls were considering it until they found out he said the same thing to both of them.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm so glad, because one of them was AD, who we now are following her story of being engaged to Clay.
Yes.
And I think
let's just get into the AD stuff, and Clay stuff.
So I don't think Clay is necessarily the right one for her, but I do think he's a better fit than Matthew would have been.
But you can say that about a lot of guys and still be the wrong pick.
Yeah, true.
It's the TV show, and so you get in this false dichotomy or feeling like you have to pick one of the two, but she didn't have to pick one of the two.
Yeah.
AD is one of the couple. AD and Clay are one of the couples were falling out of the pods. Clay had every red flag, if you remember in the pods. He just was like, I need to be with an attractive girl, which I know people I get being with someone you're attracted to. Like, I clearly picked someone I was extremely attracted to. But the way he went about it was, the show is called Love is Blind. Why are you on the show if you're not even going to consider someone who's outside of your typical...
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he was like trying to get her to tell him what she looked like. And she was like, I'm not doing that. Like, this is part of the process. I'm not going to do that.
Right. He said he was a guy with ego and confidence, to the point where it's like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I have a pretty strong ego and I'm pretty confident in my abilities. He was like, I have it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just red flags.
And he got really upset when he found out that he was in a, quote, love triangle, like that she was dating Matthew too.
I will say, I was very anti-Clay except for that moment. I did have this moment where if I was like, it's not right to do this about people. Everyone has their own lives and perspectives, and you shouldn't talk down on people. But in the context of the show, he was like, Matthew?
Yeah.
That's the guy you're trying to pick?
Yeah.
Mr. Red Flag? No, he's Mr. Red Flag as well.
Yeah.
But I can see you being like, whoa, what?
Right. I just don't, I don't think that, I don't like the way he reacted. I can understand being jealous, but the way that he went about it, not cool.
I get it. I agree.
Well, I mean, that's just part of the list. I would say the biggest red flag is that, okay, so they go on their little trip and sparks are flying. He's attracted to her. So he's like, oh, good. I'm so happy.
Right.
But then basically tells her, don't ever lose your body. Like, I will tell you if you need to work out. And she's kind of like whoa. And then when they get home, he's like, yeah, I just don't know that I can really be committed to one person for the rest of my life. And she's kind of just like, okay. Like, she doesn't really respond. I mean, unless I'm forgetting. Does she?
No. She does. She doesn't. She just kind of sits there and accepts it. He throws more than just he didn't say in a way, he didn't say, oh, I didn't think I could ever be committed to one person. He throwed every red flag that said, hey, I'm not a person that's ready to get married and be in a monogamous relationship. These are the things he said. He said, I respect my dad. He's very suave and he's a ladies' man and he cheated on my mom repeatedly. And so I have that as my example of what long-term commitment.
And he said, oh, he'll probably flirt with you when you meet him.
Right. He said, not only that, he's like, it's hard to not cheat. I don't want to be in a situation where I'll cheat.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm ready to not cheat. And she was like, what?
Right.
And then he also said, he's a black man, Clay. He said, I've never seen a black man not cheat.
Yeah.
Which is also, first of all, bro, that's not true. But secondly, he was like, yeah, look at Will Smith, look at P. Diddy, which poor timing, or maybe great timing, considering allegations. And just over and over about like, hey, it was like, heads up, girl, I am going to cheat on you.
Yeah.
To the point where if he does, which if they get married, I pray he doesn't. But if he does, she won't be like, I can't believe you cheated on me. It will be like, no, AD, he told you basically like, hey, I'm probably going to cheat.
Yeah.
It's funny because I brought this up. Xavier from Charity Season of The Bachelorette is also from North Carolina.
Yes.
And he said almost the same thing.
Yeah, he did.
It got down to the nitty gritty and he's like, dang, I hope I don't cheat on you.
Well, he said, because he had cheated in the past. Right. And Charity was like, wait, that's like my whole thing is like, I've had a person cheat on me and you waited to tell me until Fantasy Suites.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just walking red flags. Well, then they go to meet the families and his family, his mom is kind of like, bro, you need to get it together. Yeah. Basically.
She maybe, but she did not go hard enough on him.
No, she didn't.
Laxed. Let's really get into it. There's a lot of red flags. But one of the biggest red flags is how he tried to check her in front of his mother.
Yeah.
AD was a little upset that their schedules don't jive, and she felt he wasn't making, like, at this point, just for clarity, they're not living. I mean, they're living together outside the pods, outside of the Dominican Republic where they went on vacation. She's like, I get we have different schedules. I work nights, you work days, and not only do you work different schedules, you're kind of out of away from the house a lot. Mm-hmm. But you're not trying enough. And he's like, well, that's just what it is. And basically, he came to a point. He's like, so what's the problem? What's
up? And she was like, whoa. Which, good for her for not losing her cool.
No,
because I would have wanted to snap back.
Yeah. You don't have to lose your cool, but you can check someone.
Well,
in the sense that, like, hey, first of all, if you don't, you're not going to talk to me like that.
Right.
Especially if you're going to be my partner and spouse. I wish she had checked him a little harder because you're also not going to do that in front of your mother and sister.
Right.
Because I don't want to say anything or insinuate anything, but they may be down for that is what I would say.
Yeah.
The men in your family may talk to women like that, but that's not how it's going to be with me.
Well, I'm wondering if that is kind of how, because he is also saying that his parents stayed married for 24 years despite his dad cheating on her.
Right.
So I am wondering if his mom did kind of take stuff like that for so long and then finally was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So maybe it's like it could be like a newfound thing for her,
Yeah, I get it, but
but no, I know it's not. It still doesn't excuse it.
Yeah, and so that that should have been reason enough to say, hey, if you don't correct this, we can't do this.
Yeah. So then when they meet AD's mom, her mom is like super encouraging.
Yeah.
She's like, y'all can do it if you work together as a team.
Right.
And she is kind of calling Clay out on some things.
Yeah.
Talking sense into him. But one thing, remember, that's when AD was like, I would follow him anywhere. Off a cliff. She literally said that. Yeah, and we're both like, you're about to follow him off a cliff.
Hey, hope you got your parachute on because here we go. It wasn't the best. They are on rocky ground, and if I were advising them, I would say do not get married.
Same.
One, I don't think Clay is ready for it. He said he watched Love is Blind, which I think that's the first time we've heard Love is Blind mentioned on Love is Blind.
Which, like,
and he said these guys are like ready for marriage, and I don't think I'm ready. And
yeah, like okay. Straight up.
There you go.
And then AD was so poised when she was like, okay, like, I am fully invested in this process. And so, the timeline. And so if you say no at the altar, I'm okay. I will be okay. I will pick myself up and manage. She said, but I'm not interested in a long-term engagement with you. Right. It's either marriage or nothing. Right. And I was just like, good for her for standing her ground, what she wanted. Yeah. Being fully invested in the process, the timeline. Right. And not taking anything less.
Yeah, I agree. If you're going to be on the show, be on the show. Yeah. And respect yourself. Stand up for yourself. So we'll see if that follows through. I would 100%. There's just so much. I wish we had spent the multiple episodes getting the deep dives of these as they came. I know. But we got to keep it going.
I know.
Let's do a quick rundown of the more less eventful couples. Like, let's just get Amy and John. And
Amy and Johnny.
Is that his name? Yeah, Amy and Johnny.
They're probably the most boring couple.
Which is good. Good.
I mean, I think they do seemingly have a pretty solid relationship. Johnny, there's something just like a little bit off about him to me, and I can't figure out what it is. Yeah. Like, maybe he just has this pie in the sky attitude of like, let's do this and life's gonna be great and all I need to do is make more money and then I can retire early and I just want to have everything in place. And it's just kind of like, bro, like, life doesn't work like that. Right. And he keeps saying like, well, he's like really hung up on the idea of her accidentally getting pregnant because she doesn't want to take birth control. Right. And I don't know why. They haven't even discussed him using condoms. Right. But they haven't for whatever reason. They've talked about him getting a vasectomy, which is like a major procedure. Right. So I don't know. And then it's just a little fishy to me. I think maybe it's just like I think he's lived maybe a privileged life, or maybe just like everything has gone really well.
That's all. I mean, that's one way. That's a way to look at it. I will say also from a perspective of a dude, I think maybe you have this American ideal of being a provider right off the bat.
Sure, that makes sense.
And because I definitely think a lot of guys have that, like, well, I'm not bringing someone in this world before I'm ready. But then when's ready? Because everyone will tell you you're never ready to have.
Exactly.
Like, you think you are, and then it happens. You're like, oh, I probably could have done a little more preparation.
Right. Exactly.
So I think a little bit of that is fear. And realistically, this is by, what I'm saying about it realistically is you can take care of, if you can't, it's hard to take care of 17 kids if you only have one income as minimum wage. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, like, more than you realize, if you care about someone, you can help take care of them no matter your income.
For sure.
They've done some stuff with contraception. I think I truly feel like they're trying to push to have some kind of tension.
I think so, too.
Because every time they bring it up, they're almost like, yeah, we haven't talked about this in a while, but this is still an issue. Almost like...
In the beginning, it was kind of giving a little bit Jackie and Marshall, because they were like, yeah, we haven't really been intimate yet, and that was like Jackie's whole thing, was like, she wasn't attracted to Marshall. But I don't think that's what the case is with them at all. I think Johnny is just very scared. I think there is attraction there. Yeah. And, I don't, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So They probably actually should get married. Good for them. They found each other. I will say, I love her parents.
Her family is so sweet.
Yes.
So supportive. So proud of their daughter.
Yep. Her father was very sentimental, and it gave her a literal blessing, which is I always think is beautiful.
Yeah.
Her mother cried and talked about how proud they were of her. And her sister seemed to be very supportive as well.
Yeah.
Great family.
Yeah.
Okay, let's also really quickly, although we could spend 17 pods talking about all the implications and dynamics about Ken and Brittany.
Yeah.
Here's some basic things you need to know about Ken and Brittany.
Oh, boy.
They initially connected on, even though we didn't see this, we just were told this by themselves, that they connected on their faith. They both are from a faith background. They both have similar aspirations, is what they said. About people always say that, like, who's gonna get in the pod and say, like, I want to be broke,
right?
Yeah, they both like had similar aspirations. She used to be a teacher. He is the youngest principal in the state. He's 25. He's black, she's white. And so coming out of the pods, there was really zero tension. It was really smooth. Like, there was no hardship.
They seemed happy. Things were good until dun dun dun.
I will say, I did feel like he wasn't really taking it serious.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like, yeah. But anyways, so they come out of the pods, and okay, so when they meet each other in the pods, the people are like running to each other because they're so excited, and they make out, or they're a little sheepish because it's like matching the voice of the person is weird. Or we've actually had people being like, ugh, you know what I mean? Like, say like they were disgusted, which is weird to admit. And then, but these people, it was just kind of like a peck. Yeah. It wasn't like sparks right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think that we saw, obviously.
Well, and they had talked about how they were going to wait to have sex until they were married, which great. That's awesome. But it seemed like, are they just holding back from like kissing because of that, or is it just not there?
Well, that's what Brittany's point was. Eventually they have a moment where she's like, listen, I get it, we are made that, but like it should almost feel like, oh man, I can't wait to get married, because and I agree, but it shouldn't. But he was giving nothing. We could get into the weeds of like what he said, what his reasons. I don't think that's worth the time, especially on this huge podcast. We got to get.
Wait. What?
Well, I mean,
which ones?
I'm talking about like the timing. He came home, whatever.
Oh, like the actual breakup. Right.
We don't have to litigate that, because I will spend 5 minutes talking about that. All I will say is, I don't think he's into her. He gave me impressions of someone who was not maybe into Brittany at all, be it her race, be it her gender, be it whatever it was. He didn't give any indication that he was into her. He was on his phone all the time. Yeah. He just straight up kind of, to me, it was kind of obvious as it went on, like, this guy does not like her. Yeah. Whatever those reasons would be.
That's what you kept saying. And I think I was giving him the benefit of the doubt for a little bit. But no, it was truly, he was always on his phone. And when they got back, and he was always just like, I just have to work. And then one night he didn't come home till like 1:30 a.m. And she was kind of just like, she actually was pretty nice about it in the beginning. Yeah. And then he was kind of just put it all on her. Like, no, I'm in this. Like, whether I'm all in this. And she was just kind of like, well, but it doesn't really feel like that.
Yeah, that was not.
Well, so so then they break up, and it's like incredibly cold. He's truly just like, okay, so it's not gonna work, it's done. And she's just like sitting there crying, and he's just like, okay, he said, what did he say? I'll hug you so there's no beef. Like, what? Like, y'all just broke up with someone you thought you were gonna marry, and that's how cold you are? Yeah. And then they show him, of course, on his phone, hey, I got my stuff, I'm coming over, to whoever.
Yeah, like, first of all, why not just go home? Why are you, presumably it's some time, like, why are you going to someone's house? But honestly, who cares? I don't think he took the thing seriously.
Well, let me just say this. After the fact, it's all said and done, people are now coming out talking. His cousin came out on a public platform.
Someone who's claimed to be his cousin.
Claiming, but the evidence is there.
Yeah.
Because he's the youngest principal, like we said, he has gone on a circuit of the news, a Kelly Clarkson show, and this was like years prior. And the cousin had posted like, "Oh, that's my cousin, go cousin," and then he had commented or liked it. So yes, presumably, but there is evidence to back it up. But she comes out and says, "Oh, he's gay."
Yeah.
And like, first of all, why are you doing your cousin like that? And second of all, it's just, regardless, that's just not cool.
So many people, I think it's evident, they come on the show, they boost their platform, get out there, be on social media. Who knows if that's his case? I will say, very early on, I was like, this dude is not.
Well,
he was giving me different vibes. Now, some people, we watched a video where a guy was 100% straight, just had very feminine characteristics. So that's not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, it's possible.
So,
but...
and his cousin may be a bully and just be like, oh, yeah, that dude's. And he's like, I've been telling my cousin I'm not gay for a long time.
And they might have beef. Who knows?
Yeah, so again,
who knows what the reason. And then another thing was Jess. So we have not talked about Jess in the pods yet.
Well, one thing
we can talk about her.
One thing we get off of that. Brittany was great.
Brittany was so great. Okay. She was awesome. Well, wait. So Jess from the pods, we'll get into her in a minute. She went on VL Files. And she said that Ken is actually so sweet. Everybody loves Ken. He's a teddy bear. And the only reason that breakup was like so cold, quote unquote, was because they had been talking about it for a long time prior. And then they had to talk about it again on the cameras. And they were just like over it. But I don't know. The root of it
was that he never showed her affection or attention or tried to be into her at all. So and also, whether they had been talking about it or not, and that's why he was so checked out. I think what Brittany was saying is you felt checked out since the moment we've stepped out of the pod.
Right, but he wouldn't ever admit that.
Right.
Well, yeah, I agree.
If he'd said like, yeah, I've been feeling like this isn't the right thing, but he tried to be like, oh, no, I was into it. Like, you're the one who's breaking up with me.
Right, exactly.
And she actually had the grace to just be like, to not say anything when she could have been like, bro, what?
Right. Well, yeah. And I'm just kind of like, why is Jess even commenting on that?
Well, because Jess also likes the attention.
Well, you're right. So Jess, let's get into the Jess of it all.
Yes.
So Jess was big in the pods because she has a daughter. And she's maybe the first person to come on the show with a kid. That was made
a storyline for sure.
So Jess got into a love triangle with Jess, Jimmy, and Chelsea.
Right.
And at the end of the day, Jimmy chose Chelsea.
Yeah. Here, I'll take this one.
Okay.
So Jess is a single mother. Listen. Point of Love is Blind is that you can't see who you're talking to. And because of that, you're like, oh, you have no idea. But actually, you can tell who is confident, or you think you would, through how they present themselves, even by talking, just how they talk about their own experiences. So I think sometimes people who are confident speakers and confident in themselves come off as confident.
Sure.
And you don't doubt. If someone says like, oh, you seem like you're a really fun, cool guy, and their response is, I don't really get out much. And I don't have too many friends, but I think I'm cool.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, that is not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're like, oh, you sound like a really sweet, no, you sound like a really chill, fun girl. And like, oh yeah, I love to have fun. I'm like life of the party. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, this is, you can infer things.
Yeah.
So Jess is a conventionally attractive woman. So she presents herself in that way. And I think that made her popular. Like we didn't see, she had other people who were into her that didn't make it on the show. But she was talking to Jimmy. Jimmy was talking to her. Jimmy was also talking to another girl named Chelsea. Mm-hmm. It became a love triangle, as y'all know. And because of that, we got to see basically those two girls, I don't want to say battle it out, but essentially have to compete for Jimmy's affections. Now, Jimmy has to make a choice. Jessica, a single mom, she seems confident, but also like truly confident in her motherhood. She's not like a lady that feels like she has to ditch her kid to become eligible single woman. She's like, no, I'm a mom, and if you're going to join me, that's a big part of my life. And I really like you, so are you ready?
Right.
I don't know if Jimmy was ready for that.
Right.
Chelsea, on the other hand, was chill and let's go have fun. And
I'm a flight attendant.
Yeah,
I fly everywhere. Yeah.
And I want to have kids one day, but not right now. Let's party.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy liked both women, and I think when it came down to it, he picked Chelsea because it felt like I like both of them, and this feels like maybe gives me time to not have to be a dad in 2 months.
Yeah.
And Chelsea told him,
"Oh gosh,
he looks like Megan Fox." Now we talked about that last.
She looks like Megan Fox.
Right. Yeah. Right. But she doesn't, and that's been talked about like over and over again.
I think here's my take on it. I've been thinking about this.
Tell us your take on it while I adjust the cameras.
I don't think that it is that far off, and I 100% believe that someone, maybe once, maybe twice, has told her on the plane, because she's a flight attendant, that she looked like Megan Fox. I believe that. Now, I think it also meant a lot to her that someone would say that, because maybe she's a little bit insecure. And so getting a compliment like that, you're like, oh, okay. So then they're talking, oh, have you ever been said you look like a celebrity? And she's, of course, going to take that moment and be like, yeah, I have. So I don't think that it's that bad. I don't think that it's that bad of a thing that she did that. Now, some people, he after they met, it's like, yeah, she lied to me. She doesn't look like Megan Fox. And I'm like, dang, dude. Like, I don't think she lied to you. I think she just told you what people tell her, and you went and ran with it, or people have told her, because she also said, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Okay. Yes. All of that was factually correct. Let's take a moment to talk about the fact that you said that she's maybe insecure. We cannot have kid gloves on her.
Okay.
Chelsea, and we're caught up on the show. We know everything about what she's done on the show. So this is based on what we know about her. Chelsea is emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
And emotionally manipulative.
She definitely gaslights.
She gaslights. She is abundantly. It is, unless she's a conniving, evil person, she's also, those could all stem from her insecurities.
Yeah.
She was fishing to see if Jimmy still liked Jess. For long story, Jimmy picks Chelsea, and they, like you said, they go to the trip together, and they're living together. And I mean, like these recent episodes, it's really crystallized. It has always been about Jess. I want to read this comment that I saved.
Yeah, that's good.
I want to read this comment that we saved, that we saw on Reddit. It is from user Forever Known 1741. While it's obvious Chelsea carried a lot of baggage into this relationship, I actually think she shot herself in the own foot, even taking her existing insecurities out of the equation. The reason she's acting unhinged is because she sold herself as a carefree, chill, easygoing, cool girl to Jimmy, and it actually worked. He picked her. But because she knows internally she is not the person she presented in him, in order to be chosen, she will never feel secure in this relationship, because it was based on something that doesn't exist. That's why she needs constant validation from him, and that's why the reassurance will never be enough for her. She knows she's a fraud and is just waiting for him to find out.
That is so spot on.
Jimmy acknowledged that this girl does not look like Megan Fox.
Yeah.
But he also has said, and at first I didn't believe him, but he said, no, but I am attracted to her.
Yeah.
And I can work with that, which is like, you don't want that to be said. He doesn't tip, but he like Jimmy verbally and actions wise has actually shown Chelsea a lot of love and affection.
Yeah.
And showing that he's picked her.
Yeah.
He's had a little hiccups. He had a little conversation with Jess in these previous episodes where they talked a little too much. I know they just broke up with each other a couple weeks ago. But at this point, you've picked your fiance. It's just shut it down.
Right.
But aside from that little hiccup, he has said they hang out all the time together, blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about the fight.
Okay.
He says he went out for an hour and a half to make an appearance for his bro's birthday. He only had one drink, came home. She apparently got plastered.
Hour and a half tops.
Right. She got plastered. Beforehand was like...
Well, this was the next day, but yeah.
Cuddled up in bed. He was like, oh, I'm going out. Yeah, do you want to come? And she's like, no. And he's like, okay, cool. But it starts there.
Sure.
And as much as I want to go beat for beat on the fight, she starts there. Then she says, if you're the kind of guy that wants to go out all the time, I don't want to be married to that.
Multiple times. She said it over and over and over.
Right.
And he was like, I went out once in the past 2 weeks. Right. And it was for an hour and a half.
Right. One drink for my friend's birthday.
And she was just like, I can't believe you would choose to do that.
Yes.
And she was like, you lied to me in the pods.
Because right.
You said that you don't like to do that. And he was like, actually, I did say I like to go out. I didn't say I like to go out and get plastered, but that's also not what I'm doing.
Right. So that's my point I'm making. She starts with, oh, you didn't invite me out. He said, yes, I did. She's like,
yeah.
Oh, I don't want to be with the person that goes out. Like, well, I didn't actually only went out for a little while. Then she moves on to, they said you were out with girls. And he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He said, I never went. He's like, I went out. That's no. Because at first he was just like, I'm not even acknowledging that. But she kept pushing it.
Yeah.
He said, well, I was with my fraternity brothers and 2 of their girlfriends.
Yep.
So he's like, who is telling you this? Because I didn't go out with any. It was some of the girls from the show. And she said eventually Mackenzie, who was a girl from the show that we barely even know. Right? But it's like, she was on the show.
Apparently, yeah.
Right? And so they know her. And so he's like, well, no, I was not hanging out with any girls from the show. Then she says, you were out with your friends. Because he has 2 girlfriends.
He has 2 best friends that are girls that we have met prior.
Right.
Which to me is, can be a little iffy. But he was been very open about it.
Right.
They met her. And that now becomes the issue of Chelsea.
Right. Because when they first met her, you don't remember this, but she said, I can't really have a problem with it because I have an ex, a guy who's a best friend.
She did.
So then she's like, you were out with those girls. And he was like, no, I wasn't. But if I was, they are my friends. And I've told you that.
Yep.
And I've been honest with you. And I'm not going to not be friends with my friends. I've told you that. Then she's accused him. He said, oh, you hooked up with her.
No. Before that, it was, well, you have never, I don't want you hanging out with those girls.
Right. And he's like, this is the first time you're telling me about this.
Yeah. And he's like, is that what you're asking of me, to not hang out with them, to cut back on ever hanging out with them?
And she's like, yes.
And he's like, well, I'm not willing to do that.
Right. Which I think is fair.
Yeah.
Because he's like, you've never brought this up. And now that you're bringing it up, go ahead, bring it up. No, I'm not doing that.
Right. So then she doubles down. And she's like, well, the reason I don't want you hanging out with them is because you've had sex with one of them.
Right. And then he turns a corner. And he's like, well, actually, he literally, because he was around. But he turns a corner. He's like, Chelsea, I have been open with you about that.
Yep.
I introduced you to them so you can meet them. Mm-hmm. I told you that it was a one-time thing. And I told you off camera, because I wanted to be open and have a trusting relationship with you, that I did not want it to be discussed on camera, because that's my friend's life.
Yep.
She didn't sign up to have her sex life on, for all the nation to see. Mm-hmm. And I actually am really upset that you would do that after I told you not to talk about it.
Right.
But she's drunk and going on and on and on. And he's like, listen, that did not happen. And I wasn't with my friends. Then we get to the root of her insecurities.
Oh my gosh, yes.
She was like, out of nowhere, you were with Jess, weren't you? And you can see Jimmy just go like, what?
Like, what?
Like, you see all these things she's accused him of. Like, we started here, but I think we kept getting closer and closer to what she's actually insecure and scared about.
Yeah.
That he's like, she knows that one of the guys on the pod showed Jimmy what Jess looks like. Mm-hmm. And because she thinks Jess is more typically his type, which he actually has said, he was going to immediately run off with Jess.
Right.
And she's been insecure about that from that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, from the moment she picked him.
Mm-hmm.
She's been worried that this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been manifesting in every single way. She won't give him peace. She needs constant validation. He still likes me. He still likes me. You're not telling me you love me enough. He's like, I told you 3 times. I kissed you 3 times. And she betrayed his trust.
And I will just say the cracks began to show on the trip. The very first trip. Yeah. They were out and they met all the other couples for the first time. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw this, I was like, oh, Jimmy is kind of giving F-boy energy because he was kind of working the crowd. He was talking to AD. They were laughing, having a good chat. He also said AD was hot. And then was like talking to the other girls. That's when he said like, well, why wasn't I in y'all's top 5, you know? Yeah. And I think that's the issue Chelsea had, was that he was giving attention to other females there, but that's not how she went about it when they got home. When they got home, she was just kind of like spiraling.
Right. And I think that plays so much into the comment. She felt probably so pressured to just be cool. Like, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And now she's like, but you're making me feel sad. Yeah. Actually, she doesn't tell me that. She's making me feel bad. You know, and is upset and insecure and feels like, don't be my fiance and flirting with other girls. Yeah. And I think Jimmy needs to run. And it's more than Jimmy. I don't think they're right for each other.
I don't think they're right for each other either. So it's like, yeah,
he needs to run, but also she doesn't need to be in this. I think
Chelsea, it's like the things that she's saying are not, I mean, the things that she's having insecurities about are not that absurd, right? Like, I can understand being a little cautious if your fiance has best friends that are females. I can understand that, being a little insecure about that. But the way that she's communicating it and going about it is not healthy. It's not a healthy communication. Right. And I think if it was, Jimmy would be open. Yes, he would be like, yeah, okay, I'll dial it back.
Because he's actually a very effective communicator. Yeah. And it came down to her saying, like, I don't think you love me, which he hasn't done anything to say that he doesn't love her. Oh my gosh, just that she doesn't feel validated. And he's like, well, if you don't think I love you, and I've told you I love you, it's not going to work out.
Yeah, like, what else could he do?
But long story short, he takes her back, and as of where we're at right now, they are sitting, like, the latest episode literally ended with him being like, so wait, are we going to get married?
Yeah, I don't know.
I had been saying the episode before that I think she's going to say no.
Yeah, you did.
I think it's going to be a big moment for her of her choosing herself and blah, 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 blah. Whatever it takes for them to not get married is what's best for the both of them.
I agree.
I think Jimmy would say yes. I think she's going to inexplicably, well, no, not inexplicably, maybe for the better of both of them, say no. Yeah. But try to frame it as her, I don't know.
I don't know.
Couple quick thoughts before we make the whole episode about them. Do you have anything else to say? I just wanted to say, Jimmy telling her he needed a breather from her and that she was clingy should have been the moment she broke up with him. Yeah. His family's super country. She's a drunk, clearly. And yeah, that's them.
Yeah.
We done. Oh, we're on our last couple. Yeah. One last thing about Chelsea, actually. She also had a person she was in a triangle with that was more her type, a guy named Trevor. They talked. She didn't really shut it down too much either, or at least it wasn't shown in the edit. And she got on Jimmy for seeing a picture of Jess when she had been stalking Trevor's Instagram and trying to see what he looked like.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh yeah, I added you as soon as we got back," or something like that.
I creeped on you a little bit,
and it's just like, dude, come on.
Yeah, so Chelsea, she's actually very funny on social media. She's very self-deprecating in a way, but this is not a joke, Chelsea. You need therapy.
Well, she said that. She said in one of her videos, she's like, guys, I have a therapist, which that's great. Maybe start working on self-confidence.
Yes.
And not gaslighting.
Yeah, because she's not evil, but she is a
yeah, like, I don't think she even realizes that's what she's doing.
Right, but she needs someone to help her. So let's finish off with our last couple.
Oh my, Jeramy. I don't even... Jeramy, I have just been saying from day one, he's a loser. Like, I'm sorry, but to me, he's just a loser.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it in any other way.
Yeah.
He's just not cool. He's not funny. He thinks he is, but he's not.
Yeah.
He doesn't, I don't find him, like, attractive in the slightest.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just not impressed with him from the beginning. And then even ever since, since he picked Laura, I've just been, like, not... Oh, yeah, well, then it comes out that he had a fiance, like, as he was applying for the show. He had a fiance that he was, like, breaking up with, and they had, like, just recently moved out.
Yeah.
And he had said in the pods, oh, yeah, I'm renting a house because I don't want to buy until I'm, married and we're buying together. No, bro, you're renting a house because you just got kicked out of the house that you bought with your ex-fiance. So I just am not impressed with him. And then he was deciding between two girls too. Mm-hmm. One was Sarah Ann, one was Laura.
Yeah.
Sarah Ann was the, like, fun choice, right? Laura was the, like, serious choice. Inexplicably, he went with Laura. Yeah. And as he's, like, breaking it off with Sarah Ann, he kind of was like, she was like, oh, I think I'll see you again. And he was like, yeah, I'll see you again. Which, no. And then, lo and behold, they do see each other again at 5:30 in the morning.
And everything, and every moment prior to that.
Every moment. Oh, yeah.
It's not like they met at 5:30 in the morning.
They went out together.
They with each other until 5:30 in the morning.
And Laura is just, like, confronting him on it. Like, where were you? What were you doing? And he's like, I shared my location. I told you where I was. And she's like, okay, so where were you? And he's like, in the parking lot of the whatever club. I don't think it was a club, but whatever. Talking to Sarah Ann. And she was like, until 5:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. And then she's like, well, I know that's not true because I saw that you were in North whatever, and that's where she lives.
Yeah.
It's just like, come on, bro. How did you think you were going to get away with that?
Yeah. The long and the short of it with Jeramy and Laura and Sarah Ann is, they are the last couple, but I also just truly, like, am like, who cares? He seems so clearly like you said, not to be a guy that's can be trusted or is trustworthy. It's kind of rubs me the wrong way.
Same.
Laura also rubs me the wrong way. I don't think she was ready for compromise that marriage takes to be successful. She also, from the get-go, seemed to kind of condescend and talk down to Jeramy.
That's true.
And just because I didn't like Jeramy doesn't mean I appreciated how she was acting.
True.
And Sarah Ann is definitely, truly, like, she moved in on someone. She was, like, moved in on someone's fiance. And
that was another thing. She wrote him a message on Instagram saying, like, right. if you ever wonder if the door's still open, I'm here, basically.
Right. And she had zero qualms or remorse about it. She just didn't like that they were treating her bad. And in the real world, you're probably not getting engaged within the 3 weeks that you meet these two girls. So in the real world, maybe all three of y'all are out. Laura likes him, and he hangs out with her a little bit more, but then he realizes he likes Sarah Ann more. And you're a little upset, but it's like, ugh. But since they were, quote unquote, engaged,
right,
and it was a little more serious than that, you maybe have to change it to the rules of the experiment. But I think the long and short of it for me is, like, Jeramy. I'm so reluctant to say sucks, but, like, Jeramy, not, who cares?
Yeah.
Laura, who cares?
When they Sarah were, like, Ann, breaking, they have this, like, final breakup conversation, And they're like yelling at each other. It's pretty brutal. But she's like, "You are a con artist," and I'm like, "Yes, you are a con artist."
Even his mom didn't take his when he was trying to explain the whole situation to his mom. His mom was like, "Well, it's a good thing she wasn't me. Yeah, I would have gone at you."
And she was just like, "You don't really talk to me about anything that's going on, and then when you do, it's lies." It's kind of what I was getting from her. Surely. So then, like, immediately after breaking up with Laura, he goes and sits with Sarah Ann, and he's like, "Well, it's clear that I think I made the wrong decision on the pod, so let's go ride jet skis." And she's like, "Okay." And now, since it appears that Sarah Ann has posted TikToks from inside his house. Yeah. So they're obviously together.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's wrap up Love is Blind. We gave it a good 50 minutes. That's a full podcast.
So
that's long, or around 50.
We started with 5 couples and we're down to 3.
I want to run through the ones that are left and see if you think they're going to get married.
Amy and Johnny, yes.
Okay, I say yes. Clay and AD,
no.
Not a chance. I don't think he says yes. Mm-mm. And I don't actually think she says yes, nor should they.
Right.
Chelsea and Jimmy.
I'm afraid they're going to, but I don't think it's going to work out.
I'm afraid that they will, yes, and I don't think that's the right move.
Yeah.
And I actually do think she will say no at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think she'll say no.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for listening to our Love is Blind takes. We got so busy. We had to condense a season's worth of takes into 50 minutes. This one, but thank you for listening.
Yeah.
They do like 2 Love is Blinds a year, so hopefully we'll have more of a flow come next season.
Yeah.
I think they've already announced the next season, maybe.
Oh gosh.
And we can talk a little bit more in depth with each episode. So
I kind of like it as one big chunk.
Yeah, but now it's like I said, this is longer than our last few podcasts combined. So, okay. All right, Brooke, it is time for the greatest reality TV podcast segment ever, Brooke's Buzz.
Okay. So we are going to start out with the good old 90 Day Fiance. Do you remember the OGs, Michael and Angela? Angela is the older white woman, and Michael is the Nigerian.
Yes.
They have been in the franchise for, honestly, probably 10 years. I don't have the facts, but probably 10 years. They got married back in, I want to say, 2021. I might be wrong about that, but they did officially get married. Well, he finally was able to come to the U.S. with his green card or whatever it is that he was granted. Swiftly upon arriving to the U.S., he flees from Angela and claims that he is scared for his safety. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong, Angela probably has been verbally, emotionally abusive to him. Don't know about physically, but the woman can get pretty riled up and say some pretty awful things. So, am I surprised? Do I think he's telling a lie? No. Do I think he would do anything to get to the U.S. and live life as a single man in the U.S.? Absolutely.
Are they married?
Yes, they're married now.
Oh no.
Yeah. So he was like missing for some time, right? And then they finally found him. He was like at the police station. Oh, I don't know where he was, but the police were like, he's safe, but he wasn't safe. So that's why he ran, basically.
Yeah.
So
Listen. I've watched a little bit of Love is Blind with you. I'm always
You mean 90 Day Fiance?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I find myself rooting for these people who are immigrating to the U.S. Listen, I do not want people to be conned or have their hearts broken, but the power dynamics in these relationships are so imbalanced.
Yeah.
With you holding citizenship over these people's heads. A lot of them do.
Right.
And so moments where the power balance is reset. Well, you'll say when they get in the country, kind of can feel kind of like a good old fashioned comeuppance. So
yeah,
I mean, it's tough, but go Michael.
We'll see how it all plays out. I am certain that they will have some cameras up there pretty soon.
Yeah,
and we'll get the inside scoop. Okay, so Vanderpump Rules is back in full swing. We're getting news. One of those being Jax and Brittany, who are no longer on the show, but are now starring in a spinoff called The Valley, have come out and said they're separated.
But so they got a spinoff and they're separating just now?
Well, that's what everyone's saying. Like, is this real or is this for TV? Right. But people have been to promote their show.
Right.
But people have been, because people are going to want to tune in and watch the separation and all of that. But people have been speculating for a while because I guess he posted a picture with someone from his PR team, which makes absolutely no sense. But he's they're really close, and I think he has his arm around her. It just looks sus. So why? I don't know.
We just watched a season of Jax on a show called House of Villains, and he was very much writing for his family and saying he completely changed and he was living a different life. And to be honest, I kind of believed him because he was kind of boring. He's not the old Jax.
Yeah.
But of course, though, he was still on a reality show. So if I had to bet, this is all for TV.
Yeah. Now another one, Rachel Leviss, if you remember from Scandival. Did I show you her reel where she was calling out Sheena?
No.
Okay, so in this after show, Sheena and Lala were making fun of Rachel's podcast that she started.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, so what? She's just going to have a podcast where it's episode 10 and all she's talked about is Tom Sandoval. Okay. And then it goes into clips of Sheena from her podcast talking about Sandoval over and over and over and over, more than 10 times.
Right.
And it just was really, it was just a good burn.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because she was on her 10th episode of her podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I think in that podcast, I was actually gonna listen, but I didn't because I think in that podcast she actually did talk about it, but I think it's the first time she's talked about it.
Right.
So yeah, now it also came out that Rachel is suing Tom and Ariana for revenge porn.
Okay.
And I'm honestly I'm okay with that.
But was there explicit sexual acts related?
Yes, she was on a FaceTime with Tom Sandoval, and I guess maybe she didn't have clothes on or whatever was happening in the video.
Like it was like a sex.
It was a sex.
Yeah.
Well, it was a sexy FaceTime, and he recorded it without her knowing. That's what Ariana found on his phone.
But did she release it?
I don't know. But I think people in the cast were saying they had seen it.
Oh, okay. So if it was going around.
It was going around, yeah. So I don't blame her. That's and in the show, in the finale, she was like, okay, but why did you record me? Yeah. That's sus,
Yeah.
So I think, I'm honestly okay. I think good for her.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Sandoval has a new girlfriend, Victoria Lee Robinson, who I think I saw used to date Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but
about a step down.
I know. I just am not understanding who in their right mind would ever date him. But hey, to each his own. Then Christmas and Memphis from Big Brother.
Yes.
got married, and he has since filed for divorce recently.
Yeah, it's been 5 years?
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, I think they were both cheating on their partners or spouses
with each other
when they first initially got together. I think.
Oh gosh.
So you get them how you lose them how you get them, or how does it go? You'll keep them how, whatever.
you lose them how you get them.
Yeah. So.
Okay, and then Peter Weber is dating a cast member from Traitors. It appears.
Fellow cast member Ekin-Su.
Ekin-Su, who's on Love Island UK, was in a picture with his mom. And if there's one thing we know about Peter Weber, if he's dating someone, they're gonna be buddy-buddy with his mom.
Surely.
They're gonna be in pictures with his mom.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Well, speaking of Peter Weber, is that it for Brooks Buzz?
Yeah, that's all.
Great informative session. Well, let's transition into Traitors. The latest episode of Traitors.
Oh yeah, Traitors
came out, and we'll make this. This will be a brief one. Peter was eliminated. We left on a cliffhanger. I can't remember who we thought was going. If we thought
it was between Peter and Phaedra.
And you thought, who did you think was going?
I thought Peter was going.
Yeah. So.
Well, actually, I think I thought Phaedra was going because I was like, why would they leave us on a cliffhanger?
Right. So Peter goes home. He was obviously faithful. And thus begins basically the countdown to everyone getting Phaedra out. Because
Phaedra, rip. She truly gave up. I'm not going to lie. She fought hard, and this week, she gave up.
Yeah, I think because I saw in an interview, someone asked how she felt about the cast. She said, I love everyone except Dan. He sucked.
Phaedra said that?
Yeah. She said, I appreciate loyalty. I think she felt that her experience was kind of destroyed by Dan, a fellow traitor, calling her out as a traitor. Because once it was confirmed he was, everyone started looking at Phaedra. Yeah. And I don't know if they would have ever looked at Phaedra had that not been said.
Yeah.
Her game was so good when she's under no suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
Once the suspicion's on her, she didn't have the strategic chops.
Well, she was really good at defending herself because she's literally a lawyer and she really was good at it. But she did not have a strategy outside of the round table, and I think that was her downfall.
Yeah. Because
what she should have done this past week is really start stirring the pot. Like, oh, well, I think a traitor got out Trishelle or John to make me look bad.
Yeah.
And just like tried to double down on that, and then kind of said like, I think I got the impression too she just really didn't want to throw someone under the bus.
Yeah, she's a housewife. She's a lawyer. She's very knowledgeable. She's really good at the comebacks. But when it came to trying to manipulate people beyond just calling them names and clapping back, you're right. She just didn't have it. So she was a great traitor until she wasn't. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense. And Kate, the now alone remaining traitor, not appreciate how Phaedra gave up.
Like she was so mad.
Which I like Kate. I think that's a good. I like when Kate is mad because she just gives into the anger and it's just like, yeah, you're selfish. So bye.
Yeah.
She's very direct.
She's like, I think you played a very selfish game.
So more selfish than skillful.
Yeah.
Which got her in trouble.
Yeah.
Because then Sandra said, now why do you think hers was selfish? So I think you're going to send Kate because Sandra has a lot of suspicion on her. But I think she's good enough.
Kate was trying to rally the troops for Sandra, and I can't understand why she didn't get Phaedra on board with that plan.
Because Kate and Phaedra just aren't good trainers.
Yeah.
If she'd done that, Phaedra could have talked to Sheree. Because when Sheree asked her, who do you think it'd be? That's another thing. Like you said, she never could pin down who she thought a traitor was.
Yeah.
So when Sheree's like, okay, so who do you think the traitor? Phaedra's like, I don't know. I don't know, girl.
She's like, it could be
CT.
It could also be Trishelle. I'm like, okay, Phaedra.
Okay.
But
if she said like, I think it's Sandra.
And Sheree.
And Kate did that. They could have done some work. But you're right.
Sheree was trying so hard to get something, to get Phaedra to help her. She even was like, help me help you. She was like, but then she just looked her straight in the eye and said, Phaedra, are you a traitor? And of course you have to say no.
Right.
And I think that just like really tripped Phaedra up.
Yeah. This season has shown how good of a traitor Sheree and Ari were. Yeah. If you remember the finale of last season, Ari was Ari and Suri were both in the finale.
Mm-hmm.
And they both had avoided detection.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they get one of them. Because I think the cast felt there was still one left.
Mm-hmm.
But they could have convinced him of someone else and stole him. But Ari felt too bad about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Voluntarily self-evicted. Shree said, I'm going to take this money. Took the money.
Mm-hmm.
The Traitors are not on that level this season.
No.
And I think it all comes down to Dan underestimating his competition and putting all the Traitors in a really bad spot.
Yeah, I think so too.
He just didn't really, he's the reason, which hurts me to say because I love Dan from Big
Same.
Brother. Okay. So the next season's the finale, I guess we think it is, next episode, so I guess we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? All right. Can you believe it? We are now going to talk about The Bachelor. This is, like I said, it's coming out on Sunday. So maybe we just hit the hot points from last week's episode, which is about 6 days old now.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe look forward to this week. Maybe take some guesses on what we think is going to happen.
Yeah.
In this episode coming up on Monday.
Yeah.
Which might be today, depending on when you're listening. Let's see. They're in Alberta, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Joey came in on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
The ladies drove themselves in.
Yeah.
I wrote that down in my notes, so I wanted to say it. Yeah. I just thought that was important at the time. We saw Jesse and Joey playing tennis.
Again.
As we think we're starting to see them do all the time.
Everywhere they go.
So that was good. And then we find out who's getting the one-on-ones. We found out that Daisy is getting a one-on-one. She was my initial, it's going to be her. Book it. I 100% think it's her. I haven't felt as confident recently.
Yeah, I mean, she seems to be very doubtful.
She said she could see herself loving him, but is not in love with him.
Yeah.
Gave some reasons on what she would need, why she doesn't think she's there yet, and what she would need to see, including her family, just doubts about what their future would look like.
She said something about potential, he said something about potential when he gave her the rose, and I said, it's really risky to choose someone based on potential. And you were like, or it could really be amazing, which is true.
Is that what I said?
Yes. And I said, okay, what'd you say?
If I said that, I was sleepy.
Well, yeah, and I said, okay, but I can't tell you how many couples I see in couples therapy that are like, well, there's potential.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, dude,
I remember this conversation. What I said, you said it's risky based on potential. And I said, well, that's what dating is. Like, all dating is like that. And that's the point I was making. You don't know. I think I was thinking, like, choosing to date someone, not choosing to marry them.
Okay.
I misunderstood. Because anyone you date with, like, well, there's potential.
True.
But if you're like
very early on,
you don't get down on. You're correct. You're correct. You don't get down on one knee for potential.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're gonna. Honestly, to me, it's looking like Kelsey A is gonna be the top choice.
She's kind of jumped to the front. She also had a one-on-one this week.
Yeah, which honestly, it seems like Joey really likes the girls that are just kind of like, I'm not fully there yet.
I think he appreciates and thinks they're being more honest than someone who was just like, oh, look, like you remember, I forgot her name. She was head over heels in love with him.
Yeah.
And he wasn't.
Yeah.
Kelsey's one-on-one went great. They jumped into the freezing cold water. They talked about her dad. They talked about his dad. They got closer. They made out in a sauna, I think is what it was. Mm-hmm. Great date. Yeah. Nothing really, just seemed to be more moving onward and upward, which is at this point what you want.
Yeah.
They had a group date.
Yeah.
Girls were upset.
Let's just get into the Maria of it all.
Okay.
Girl is spiraling and self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
She saw him and Jen kiss on the group date, and she just could not get it back together. She had an attitude on the whole group date and was like, I don't do outside stuff, which, girl, same. I don't either, so I get it. But, like, make the best of it.
Right.
So then they go on the, portion of the date where they have time with Joey, intimate time or whatever.
Right.
And she's just like, yeah, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if I can do this. And he's like, what are you saying? Are you going to go? And she's kind of just like, maybe. And he's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna, like, beg you to stay if you don't want to be here or be with me.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, what is that? Does she want him to beg her to stay? Like, is that what she needs to feel like he really is into her?
I think she was fishing for a little bit of validation.
Yeah.
Because she was a little insecure. I mean, it realistically is seeing the guy that she likes date other girls. So that was part of it. But you're right. He's not looking for, because she said, I have to be chosen too, which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
But Joey's also is like, well, if you're doubting the process at this point, how can I trust that we're going to get there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because kind of like AD was saying with Love is Blind, I've given myself completely over to this experiment and the timeline. So, like, if you're not going to be in there with me, let's not do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think Joey's saying, like, hey, if we're going to do this, let's do this.
Right.
Because I don't want to pick you, and you realize, oh, I didn't really want to do this.
Right.
So, I think was a speed bump. It's hard to say how much Joey really likes Maria or how much he's just intrigued by her.
Yeah.
But this is maybe kind of like a wake-up moment. You know what I mean?
But he
like,
gave her the rose.
Well, he still likes her enough, I guess, to give her the rose. It does remind me of that Chelsea Jimmy, her wiggling back into the good graces, but she's not the one. I don't think he picks her.
Basically, Jen and Kelsey T got sent home. I had been thinking Jen was going to go all the way, but she is gone now. And Kelsey T, I'm sad about Kelsey T as well.
Yeah, I think both of those girls will go to Paradise. They don't strike me as bad. Wow, hold on. Wow. Let me be clear. I don't think production would pick them for the Bachelorette. All of these women are great women. This is a great final six, and all of them would make good Bachelorettes, but only one of them is going to be
I do not believe Maria would make a good Bachelorette.
Maria would make a great Bachelorette.
Oh my gosh.
Here, I'm going to say something. I've heard people say it. I'm not the first to say this, that she would make a good Bachelorette. What I'm thinking about with Maria. Wow, and when you hear what I'm about to say, you're gonna know what a big a statement I'm making. She has Bachelorette potential that only really comes around once in a while.
Oh my gosh, I know what's coming.
What's her name? Hannah Brown.
Oh my goodness!
No one will ever approach Hannah Brown's season of Bachelorette. That's at peak. The American version of the show peaks right there.
Oh my gosh!
Maria though could get us back up there, because I think a Maria season would be unlike any other season prior to it.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah Brown's season, she was so in control. She was such a magnetic personality, lover or hater, frustrated by her, annoyed by her, or a fan of hers. Mm-hmm. Hannah Brown had people in their seats. Okay. Maria is a northerner. She's not even from this country. Hannah Brown's from the South. So they're different. But in the same way that I think people would be watching to just see Maria's season is what I think it would be like. I think a Maria season would be unhinged.
Wow.
I think she would be running the show.
Wow.
And would get a whole new different type of guys.
Wow.
That's what I forecast.
Okay.
And do I think they're going to pick her? I don't think they know yet.
Okay, fair.
It depends on who is the final choice. If it's Kelsey A, Rachel, Daisy, or Maria, those are our final four.
Okay. And
how we respond. So we see the hometowns are coming up. It's been a while since we watched the previews. We know Maria's dad.
It didn't seem like it was going to be anything too shocking.
Nothing fireworks
Who was
happening.
It that was like bawling though? Someone was. They
Rachel.
were outside. Rachel. I wonder what.
But
that's
that could
about.
be happy tears. It could be just that it went so well. I'm so happy. This is such a confirmation.
For sure.
You know how the editors are. Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunate that this one's coming out so late. It's fortunate we get to talk about it because we love to talk about it. But at this point, we're almost just kind of
but I think it will be good. Yeah, for sure.
So our schedule, I think, for recording schedule purposes, is going to be much more accommodating this week. Lord willing, we will have time to get it out a little closer to when the episode airs, which is still 3 days later. Mm-hmm. But if you like our coverage, our takes on this, please listen. We're going to at some point catch up on Farmer Wants a Wife.
Yeah.
I think we are going to be one of the few people that are doing deep dive podcasts on Farmer Wants a Wife. We might be the few people in our friend group watching Farmer Wants a Wife because we're just reality TV addicts when it comes to that. So if you're interested at all on what that show is about, we should maybe not next episode, but one of these episodes
we'll
coming
check
up.
in. Yeah,
We'll check you in on Farmer Wants a Wife and the other reality TV shows we're watching. Man, Brooke, it's so fun podcasting with you. We got a lot of shows. We got a busy year of shows coming up. Just when our show will end, we'll have other ones starting up. So rest assured, you'll be hearing from us. If you want to hear about reality TV, you can. Listen, we made a comment. We're getting back out there on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Follow us on social media to see updates on when episodes come out, and as well our takes that we sometimes say online. We're at the People's Rose at the People's Rose for most social media platforms, and then in addition to that, we're gonna have a YouTube video up. So if you prefer to watch our beautiful faces while we talk about reality TV, it's coming in some way, shape, or form. We're also on TikTok and Instagram. And our website is peoplesrose.com.
Peoplesrose.com.
We're the real deal, people. We have a website.
Yep.
So continue to stay just looking out for us on all your platforms. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed in whatever way you listen to podcasts. That really helps boost our números. Y también, just thanks for listening. Anything else, Brooke?
No, you said it all.
All right. Bye.
Bye.